Yo, Scyfe here, just like a knife, and welcome to my long-awaited movement guide. Why good movement is important in Valorant. Movement is one of the most overlooked aspects in all of Valorant, and to many it's seen second to aiming. But what you don't realize is aiming is heavily influenced by your movement. By simply understanding what are the different types of movement and how it affects your aim, you can unlock a whole new world, helping you reach the ranks you so desire. Movement is such a broad term that encompasses many concepts such as shifting, sprinting, jumping, peeking, etc. The thing with movement is because it encapsulates so much, there isn't a direct way of improving it the same way you would with aiming, where you can just jump in the range and start shooting bots. Because of that, most players are unaware on how one can go about leveling this up. Now that you understand how important and beneficial good movement is, let's delve into the cornerstone concept, sprinting. Sprinting allows you to traverse the map quickly, and having your knife out would allow you to reach maximum velocity, of course exceeded by neon, but the caveat being your footsteps are audible. You may be saying, duh, of course I knew that, but the issue isn't knowing how to sprint, but when to sprint. Too many players either sprint too much or shift too much, resulting in them missing the correct timing to kill an enemy, or being pre-fired because of their loud footsteps. Let's showcase a scenario when and where it's ideal to shift or sprint. It's a 1v1 for you and you're in spawn. You hear the enemy planting the bomb on B site and you're towards CT spawn. The question would be, would you sprint or shift the whole way, or a combination of both? And if so, when? Well, this is how far you'd sprint, where you pay close attention to the minimap and making sure your footsteps cannot be heard by aligning the circle with the edge of the site. That's if the enemy planted here, but they could have easily planted default. However, to be safe, we have to assume they planted close, hence why you'll make sure the footstep circles don't touch the site on the minimap. Jumping. Jumping is pretty self-explanatory and it's done by pressing spacebar, but more commonly bound to scroll wheel up or down. Why is it that so many players, specifically high elo and pros, bound to scroll wheel? Well, it all comes down to feeling more responsive. Look at it this way, with spacebar it's one long keycap that takes longer to press and requires more force, and on the other hand you can input multiple scrolls in the same time frame you can with a single spacebar, meaning you'll be able to hit that timing much easier. Here's a simple animation explaining this. Notice the window to jump is evenly spaced, and by using scroll you're able to put down multiple inputs, meaning you have a larger room for error. With a spacebar that window gets smaller, meaning you'll need to time it accurately, hence why it feels more responsive to use a scroll wheel. Ultimately, if you've been using spacebar and that's something you're comfortable with, stick with it. B-hopping. Air strafing is such an important area that many players fail to grasp the importance, and it leads on to the advanced form, which is B-hopping. Let's break it down into several steps. Strafe jumping, moving forward, and turning your mouse. I'm confident everyone watching this can easily perform each of these. However, to be safe, I'll break it down. For strafing, you simply hold down the D key to strafe right and the A key to strafe left. Jumping is completed by pressing spacebar or scroll wheel up or down. Moving forward is as simple as pressing the W key, and lastly, turning your mouse is just moving your mouse left or right. Combining all of them at the right interval will allow you to easily bunny hop. Here's the correct order. You hold your W key to gain momentum, followed by a jump, and as you're jumping, pressing A to strafe to the left, and the moment you land, you do the same for the other side. If done correctly, it will look like this. Understanding peeking. Peeking is one of the fundamentals in Valorant and encompasses numerous aspects that can help you win gunfights and ultimately help you win games. I'll be breaking down peeking into two categories: combat peeking and info gathering peeking. But before that, I need you to fully understand angle advantage and why it's necessary, so you can start peeking successfully and not end up peeking and dying like this. In a nutshell, angle advantage refers to the distance between two angles. Let's take Haven Long Game for example. The distance between this angle and this spot is about 25 to 30 meters. So if an enemy is holding this angle, they'll have the advantage simply due to the angle they're holding is far greater than the one you're peeking from, meaning they'll see you a lot sooner, and it's the reason why so many duelists play here. The same can be said if an enemy decides to peek whilst you're holding from garden. You have the upper hand because the angle advantage is far greater on your side. Now that you understand angle advantage, let's delve into the different types of combat peeking. Jiggle peeking. Jiggle peeking is when you're jiggling in and out in an effort to gain info or to condition the enemy before you swing out. It can be used for info gathering or for combat purposes. When peeking from an aggressive point of view, it's extremely strong when being held by an operator, as it baits the shot out so that you can safely peek. But it's also used to condition the enemy to hold a tighter angle before you decide to swing out, catches them off guard and forces them to readjust their crosshair, and in most cases they will fall back to a crouch, spray and pray. Wide peek. Wide peek, Ferrari peek, swing peek, etc. all refer to the same type of peeking, and that's positioning yourself far enough from the angles so that any enemy holding will be caught off guard, especially if the angle advantage is on their side. Let's refer to B main on split, where the player sitting in elbow will have the greater advantage but by swinging out and reaching full velocity, you're going to catch them off guard, and in a way you're leveling the playing field. What you must consider is a wide peek is very risky as it exposes you to several angles. Let's say I want to swing CT from B-main in ascent, and even though I may catch the player off guard, I've now exposed myself to all these spots, which is why you need to be efficient as possible, have your crosshair already pre-aim on the angle, and making sure all it takes is a slight micro correction at the worst of times. Generally, you resort to this type of peeking when you know there's only one enemy holding, and showcases how silently fast peeking looks compared to shift peeking. Any decent aimer would punish you severely for shift peeking. Look at it this way. Typically when you're peeking an angle like this, you're at a disadvantage because the distance between the angle they're holding and the one you're peeking from is far greater for them, which means when you peek, they'll see you first. So when you're shift peeking, you're making it even easier for the enemy. So why put yourself at an even greater disadvantage by shift peeking? Info gathering peeking. These types of peeking are primarily used to gather info while still being safe, and in ranked having information on where the enemies are and how they're playing is very crucial. Jiggle peeking explained earlier can be used both aggressively and passively. In the case of info gathering, the goal is to jiggle in and out, waiting for an enemy to peek the area you're holding. Not only is this significantly safer than just standing and holding, but it only exposes half of your body if done correctly, so that if an enemy does peek, you can instantly fall back to safety. To do this, you simply press A and D back and forth, but remember to not expose your whole body, just enough to where you can see. Jump peeking. A more advanced form of jiggle peeking, and one that I personally recommend, mainly because it achieves the same purpose, which is safely gathering info, but it does it even better. Let's look at it from the enemy's perspective. Which one is easier to hit? A, an enemy jiggle peeking, or B, one that's jump peeking? Of course, the one jump peeking is a lot harder to kill because it adds that variability of flicking to their head. There are several tutorials on how to jump peek, but in essence it allows you to gather info safely. Also, you can position yourself sideways or head on. To do this, you simply hold W, and just as you're about to peek, jump and let go. The momentum from your jump will carry you forward. The moment you're able to see the area you're looking to peek, you hold A and S, or in this case, D and S since the right side of the wall is covered. And if the left side is covered, you hold A and S. Alternatively, you can jump peek sideways, simply done the exact same way, but you're facing this direction. Personally, I find it much easier to peek this way. Silent crouch peeking. Another form of info gathering, but one that is probably the best, as not only are you hard to hit, but you're completely silent. Unless you're playing against someone like TENS, the likelihood an enemy is going to flick towards you is near impossible. And this is how it looks from the enemy's perspective. With a jump peek, you can clearly hear the enemy jump peeking, allowing you to pre-aim them like this. But with silent crouch peek, you have no idea. Notice how there isn't a noise cue. Cutting to the state-of-the-art camera, we're able to see our trusty Phoenix safely gathering info, and the moment he notices an enemy, he's able to relay that to his team safely. To perform this skill, you hold crouch, in my case control, and jump, and whilst you're in midair, you let go of the crouch key and repeat this until you spawn an enemy. It seems difficult, but trust me, once you understand it, it's very simple. If you've enjoyed this guide and would like a part 2, and there's so much more to cover, especially from an aiming perspective and advanced concepts such as pathing, then comment movement guide in the comments. I love you all, and I'm out. Peace.